Akwaba, willkommen, Ashilan, Wasalan, Dalak Achyam, Cheke, Caribou, bienvenue and welcome. Welcome to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Heiko Maas, Professor Joybrato Mukherjee, President of the DAAD, the German Academic Exchange Service. Welcome to Professor Johannes Vogel, Director of the Museum for Naturkunde, Carsten Busch, President of the HTW, the University of Applied Science. Welcome to Professor Facil Tesfaye, the Deputy Chairperson of the Advisors. Welcome to Your Excellencies. Welcome, a warm welcome to all the participants of the TheMuseumsLab. My name is Karen Taylor, and I will be your host for tonight. I also have the honor of guiding you through the first phase of the TheMuseumsLab through the Module 1 starting next week. And when I'm not hosting prestigious events such as tonight, I am in charge of the political advocacy at the organization Each One Teach One, a Black community empowerment organization for Black people in Germany. I'm a chairperson of the Network Against Racism, and I'm a member of the board of the SPD Berlin. And part of my job is chasing my little children as well. So that about me, and let me now give the floor to our first speaker, to the Minister Heiko Maas.
Excellencies, fellows and partners, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever heard of the so-called until it's gone syndrome? Well, I think we have all experienced it during this pandemic. With friends and families in lockdown, and theaters, cinemas, and museums closed, we have started to miss things that we took for granted before. Because we didn't know what we had until it was gone. What we do now, however, is that cultural institutions like museums will be crucial to our recovery from the current crisis and from the wounds it is leaving in our societies. Museums are more than just collections. They serve as a window to our past. They allow us to come together and reflect on our present. And in doing so, we help us building bridges into the future. That was also the idea behind the TheMuseumsLab. And I'm grateful to all of you, our friends and partners, for turning it into a reality. With TheMuseumsLab, we are establishing a platform for learning and exchange, a space for reinvention and creation among African and German experts and young professionals, and a network for discussion and reflection about our colonial past and the question of return of artwork that is linked to it. In doing so, ladies and gentlemen, the TheMuseumsLab will not only produce new knowledge and ideas. It could also revolutionize the way we see museums themselves in the future. Not just as temples of knowledge or shrines of beauty, but as places that connect us by allowing us to experience our shared humanity.
Dear Minister Maas, dear members of the Diplomatic Corps, dear Mrs. Oforiatta, dear Mrs. Ebene, dear Mr. Vogel, dear Mr. Busch, dear participants from partner museums in Cameroon, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Germany, Ghana, Kenya, Morocco, Namibia, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, and Tanzania, dear project partners, dear guests. At the German Academic Exchange Service, we are committed to promoting international academic cooperation and exchange. By connecting German higher education and research institutions with partners around the world, DAAD strengthens global networks. For this reason, it is a great honor and pleasure for us to support the creation of an international museum network and its collaboration within the framework of the TheMuseumsLab joint project. In line with the DAAD initiatives such as Leadership for Africa, Centers for African Excellence, and the African Good Governance Network, among others, this project is part of our strategy to enhance academic exchange with countries from the African continent. Museums are spaces for reflection about one's own past, contemporary value orientations, and possible futures. They help in many ways to communicate knowledge in society and to expand visitors' horizons. Recently, they rightly became objects and subjects of decolonization debates. In past times, they have contributed to and were an integral part of Western imperialist knowledge construction and colonialism. In that respect, this joint learning project will also support the internationalization and the ongoing decolonization process of museums and museum studies at German higher education institutions. With its research-oriented and succinct skills enhancement initiative, this pilot project will no doubt strengthen the manifold links between museums in Germany and in African countries. I would like to thank our project partners, the Museum für Naturkunde, Leibniz Institute for Evolution and Biodiversity Science, the University of Applied Sciences HTW Berlin, our partners from the network, the Advisors, and the Federal Foreign Office for a trustful and creative cooperation. All stakeholders have greatly contributed to this success. May this new joint learning program be enriching for everyone, and may new ideas and fruitful exchange strengthen our collaboration.
Welcome to the Museums Lab. My name is Johannes Vogel. I'm the Director General of the Museum für Naturkunde Berlin. In the background, if you listen very carefully, you might hear the cuckoo, a bird that is joining Europe, that is coming to Europe every year from Africa. They are very, very tight, not just biological, but also cultural links between Africa and Europe. But now we need to get to a new level, a new perspective on international collaboration in the field of museum for a sustainable future. That means that natural history museums, museums in general, have to change. We need to listen to more voices, more perspectives on how the world is made and how the world is imagined and the future of the world is imagined by many people. Europe has to learn a lot. I'm so excited that my museum is allowed to organize the Museum Lab, and that this allows us and all the other museums who join in to change. There has to be a deep change from within the museum, and I think the Museum für Naturkunde has done quite a good start addressing some of these issues. But we are very eager to learn with you about how museums may want to be in the future, for whom, with whom, and I think we can all learn together. This is why it is so important that this is a co-learning, a co-creation space that looks for innovation in our sector, in our organizations. I'm really excited that we are such a strong partnership. We have the HTW, we have the other museums, cultural institutions, we have the advisors representing the migrant community, and policy is joining in through the German Foreign Office, through the German Office of International Development. We are really excited to work with all of you to see where we are going. Special thanks also to the German Cultural Ministry. Very excited that we can be here, but also that we can address some of our responsibilities that we have accumulated through the colonial history of Germany and Europe. So therefore, please let's continue in this fantastic spirit, work together, create synergies, create a sustainable future for museum networks and for our planet. Thank you very much.
My university, the HTW, is the largest university of applied sciences in Berlin. We offer a great range of study programs in areas of technology, computing, business, culture and design. International cooperation is a matter of heart for us. We maintain several partnerships on the African continent with university and institutions in Ethiopia, Egypt, the Gambia, Morocco or Namibia, just to mention some of them. And it is essential for us to cooperate on and interact as equals. In most of our international cooperations, we are the learning part, and thank you to all partners for that. I'm very proud that our master's program in museum management and communication with Professor Susan Campbell is now part of TheMuseumsLab. This program provides the next generation of museum professionals with opportunities for global exchange on topics just such as digitization and participation, audience development, and decolonization, one of the most important, of course. Dear fellows, I wish you an excellent learning experience in this program. Museums influence the participation of the past and the present, and so they are the base of the future. This is a wonderful task and a great responsibility. Last but not least, I would like to express my gratitude towards all the partners and supporters that contribute to and enable this great project. The TheMuseumsLab starts today, and I'm part of this, and I'm happy to be part of this, to share this moment, at least virtually, but with you. Thank you to all, and have a lot of fun.
Dear participants, dear guests, I would like to welcome you to the TheMuseumsLab 2021 on behalf of the team of advisors who was involved in this project. My name is Facil Tesfaye, and I'm the Deputy Chairperson of the advisors, speaking here today on behalf of our Chairperson, Philippa Ebene. We, the advisors, are committed to promoting best practices in the fields of science, culture, and the arts. This calls for continued reflection on the design and implementation of new forms of collaboration. Collaborations that aim at a symmetrical knowledge exchange embedded within dynamic knowledge networks. In December 2020, we were approached by Professor Susan Campbell from the University of Applied Science and founder of Sawa Academy to provide feedback on 2 modules of a proposed capacity building program for African museum executives. Back then, no one could have imagined that this would lead to the TheMuseumsLab 2021, a major knowledge exchange program for German museums executives and their colleagues from 11 African countries. In the coming weeks, more than 100 panelists will give talks on various topics related to the future role of museums in Africa and Europe. The TheMuseumsLab 2021 exemplifies what we, the advisors, do both in terms of its content and its form. That's why we propose that the 2 existing modules of the program be preceded by an introductory module entitled Entangled Histories and the Future of Cultural Memories. We also suggested that facilitators whose perspectives go beyond the core areas of museum work are involved in this module. We strongly recommended that, as with Module 1, that the 2 modules, Collection and Research, as well as Communication and Strategic Management, include panelists representing diverse perspectives as well. Last but not least, we made a recommendation to extend the Museums Lab to not only African, but also European museum executives for joint further educational training. We have made these suggestions because spaces of discourse in which African and European museums are renegotiated as places of learning, remembrance, commemoration, and healing are still scarce. We would thus like to thank the initiators of the Museums Lab 2021 who made this possible. We would like to extend our gratitude to the thinkers, artists, scholars, and cultural actors who will share with us their knowledge and practical expertise. We also thank the museum executives from Cameroon, Egypt, Ghana, Germany, Kenya, Congo-Kinshasa, Morocco, Namibia, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, and Tanzania for joining us. We are very much looking forward to meeting you. Our thank also goes to our partners, the University of Applied Science, the German Academic Exchange Service, DAAD, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Museum of Naturkunde. Last but not least, I would like to thank my fellow advisors, Philippa Ebene, Professor Pamela Dube, Hakim El Hashoumi, Mario Santiago, Dr. Chinwe Johnson, Natasha Mendes, and Professor Kofi Yakpo for their contributions. Thank you.
Let me now introduce to you this pioneering knowledge exchange program for African and German museum professionals. The Museums Lab, the project, brings together a wide range of skills and competencies. There's being museums, of course, academic and cultural institutions from 11 African countries and Germany. These institutions come together to foster a common approach and mutual learning between Africa and Europe. When we look at the key facts that I would like to share with you, the Museums Lab is a platform for joint learning, exchange, and continuing education on the future of museums in Africa and in Germany. The aim is also to establish a close and lasting network between future shapers of museum concepts on both sides. The Museums Lab does this in focusing on current issues and concepts of museum management, social impact and responsibility, localization of content, as well as practical aspects of museums as institutions in the 21st century. So who are the partners of this project? The project was developed by the German Academic Exchange Service, the DAAD, the Museum for Naturkunde, and the University of Applied Science in Berlin. These three partners were complemented by a close cooperation with the African consultancy group, the Advisors. Besides, there are 10 museums as well as several other cultural institutions that partner up in this program. The project is financed by the Federal Foreign Office and supported by the Minister of State for Cultural and the Media, as well as the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. So what are the next steps of the Museums Lab? Starting next week, there will be the kickoff of the Module 1, which will deal with entangled histories and the future of cultural museums, of cultural memories. Module 1, part of the online phase, will be followed by the Module 2, which will deal with collections and researches in June, followed by Module 3 in July. After this first online phase, there will be a final colloquium and a transition to the practice phase, the practical phase, where there will be 3-week placements at participating museums in Germany. This will take place in October and will come to a closing in November with the final closing event. So now, after having heard the content of the first phase and the first online phase of the Museums Lab, it is my honor to introduce to you our keynote speaker. The keynote speech itself will be divided in a speech and will be followed by a short film that was exclusively given and provided for this event. So please let me welcome Nana Oforiatta, who is a lecturer and intellectual, as well as a writer, who will now give her keynote speech.
Good afternoon, everyone, und für die Deutschsprachigen guten Nachmittag. Ich habe ungefähr 10 Jahre als Kind in Deutschland gewohnt und weiß, wie es ist, eine Realität ohne Vielfalt zu bewohnen. I hope that initiatives like this one represent the many pluralities of our beings, of our worlds, and how these can live together in harmony and in equality. The Museums Lab, its consortium of institutions and individuals, could be a template for the kind of cultural exchange we hope to inhabit in the future, not just in Germany, but also hosted and organized in places like Ghana and other parts of Africa. It's this kind of critical thinking program that will inform how we all think about our past, how we might reshape our presence. The idea of the Universal Museum up to this point has been anything but universal. It's been one of subject and object, of observer and observed, of researcher and studied. And we on one side of the world have historically been excluded from entering the role of subject, at least as it pertains to forming and creating narratives and their structures. Programs like the Museums Lab are the first step towards the correction of this. Further steps will come once we here on this side of the world host a concomitant program based in our scientific practices, research strategies, visions. The colonial encounter set up a hierarchy of being and of exchange that privileged one form of historicization, of reality building and navigation over many others. What is now being called decolonization in many forums is an attempt at undoing the harm of this, not just for the colonized, but for the whole of global thought, which lost the expansive, creative possibilities that pluralities bring with them. We're now at the precipice of new ways of thinking and of creating, heightened by the many crises we're experiencing, of health, of injustice, of race, of environmental damage. We cannot afford to do things as they've always been done. We cannot afford to stay the same. So what comes next and how? What role do museums and we as cultural thinkers and creators play in this? For us in Ghana, it means uncovering, working on alternative structures to the ones we are handed in the slipstream of colonialism, of nation building, ones grounded in community, in listening, in digging deep into our ancestral knowledge well and creating new forms out of this process. This involves rethinking all aspects of narrative shaping, of archiving, of institution building, of cultural exchange, of exhibiting, of conserving, of the relationship between subject and object in all ways. In Germany, I imagine it means a lot of unthinking, ways of dominance, and of so-called right thinking, of listening rather than documenting, dissecting, labeling, and ordering, which I know Germany in particular is very good at. Allowing other ways to sit side by side with the ways that have been developed and protected for so many years. For all of us, it means allowing methodologies of care and compassion alongside those of competition and collection. Care and compassion for nature, for each other, for animals, for objects. One of the things that I love most about the indigenous knowledge systems that I've been researching over the last years is their insistence on the interconnectedness of all things, of the spirit that flows through us, our ancestors, those not yet born, the rivers, earth, rocks, trees, animals, and everything around us. In these cosmologies, these philosophies, the need for dominance becomes mute. The essence of each thing, each object, knows what it needs to survive and can tell us how through those that dedicate their lives to the act of listening and channeling. So I very much look forward to what emerges from this museum's lab and of other laboratories like it, and to the kinds of worlds we're creating through imagining them in programs like this one.
This short film by Nana Oforiatta touched upon many central aspects of the MuseumsLab: the emergence of cultural histories, the role of art and architecture, the importance of storytelling, education, and of course, the essence of collaborations. I think Nana said it perfectly. The MuseumsLab makes an attempt to bring together those who have been objects of research up to now, with the aim of turning objects into subjects. Nana also appreciates the critical part of the MuseumsLab. And in the spirit in which she finished her keynote speech, the conference will start on Tuesday with a slot on critical diversity literacy. Now, it is time for the participants of the MuseumsLab to join us for the second part of this evening's kickoff. You've all received the document with the direct link for another Zoom call. So I would ask you to follow this link in order to reconnect with the ones who will be starting the MuseumsLab next Tuesday. And for the rest who joined us this evening, I can only thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening. Thank you also for noticing. Thank you for putting and for kicking off this event together with us. And to all the partners and the speakers of this evening, to the attachés of the embassies, as well as all the partners and collaborators from the different countries. Thank you for being here with us tonight, and we'll hopefully regather after the summing up of this MuseumsLab, or at least of this first round of the MuseumsLab. So have a good evening, and I'll see the participants in the next call. Thank you all, and bye-bye.